Hey friends, happy Mother's Day if you're watching this because you got this particular kit for me. I'm so excited. This is a new painting to do and I'm excited to be able to share in some memory making with you. So here's a few things that you want to consider before we get started. Number one, are you in clothes that matter if you get paint in them? If you are, pause me, go change. Number two, do you have a drink and a snack? You might as well make a party out of this, right? And make some happy memories. And number three, is your painting surface ready? Is it okay if you get paint on wherever you're working? And lastly, do you have your napkin, your water cup, your paint plate, your paints? They really need to be acrylic, and your water cup for cleaning your brush. And of course, I have different size brushes. So if you ordered the art kit from me, that means that you have all of these things ready except for the water cup that you did have to provide. And don't learn a hard lesson like my daughter did and use a favorite cup because it may not come off of the cup. The dirty paint water might not. So I am ready. And one little disclaimer is that you are your own special artist. So that means that you may choose to completely switch up your design from what I'm doing, and there is nothing wrong with that. Also, trust my process, okay? We have a whole step by step that I'm gonna do with this, so you just have to trust the process. I will get you through this, I promise. So first thing we're gonna work on is our background. That will give everything a little bit of time to dry and allow us to do our seaweed and our coral and all that good stuff while the paint dries, right? Or after the paint dries. And then we'll work on our mermaid tail, and the mermaid tail can be as creative as you want it to be. So everybody take a deep breath. Turn on some awesome jams to have going in the background, some fun music, just not too loud. You got to be able to hear my pointers every now and then. And I am going to start with the big flat brush, okay? And we are going to start with that brush. I do like to hold my paintbrush just like I would hold a pencil, right where the metal and the handle touch. I use one finger. Some people do two fingers. When you go to clean your brush, I don't want to forget to tell you this, your brush becomes a ballerina and it swirls in the bottom of the cup. And it does not do tap dance lessons today because that will splash everybody or everything. So instead we swirl and then we swipe on the inside. And it is an absolute must that you sweep your napkin on your paper towels to dry your brush before you dip it in another color and paint on your canvas. Okay. Also, I like to kind of prep my plate ahead of time. So that means that I would go ahead and pull out the colors that I want to use. I know that I like to use a lot of white when I'm painting, like a lot, okay? Now, that doesn't mean get all your white out, but you may want to get a decent amount. Also, I know that I'm going to be using a lot of cool colors, so that means blues, greens, and purples in my painting. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some blue, get a good decent chunk of that on my paint plate. I do like to reuse my plates, but part of that might just be because I'm super well, I can't say I'm super green because I'm not, but I try to be aware of reusing things and aware of helping the earth when I can, right? Okay, so I got some turquoise and I got some purple. Now you guys might be thinking, oh my gosh, she's not cleaning your brush in between colors. I'm not, because I know these all belong kind of to the same color family, so I'm not super concerned about it. But if that bothers you, then clean your brush in between dipping in the paint jars, okay? Now, because I am going to switch to a completely different color family, I am going to go ahead and clean my brush. So the brush goes to the bottom. We smush and swirl. It kind of looks cool at first. It looks like a cloud forming and a little mini tornado in our cup here. I hate saying that word here in Oklahoma, but okay. So we smush and swirl, and we wipe on the inside of our cup, and definitely no tap dancing. Now, because I was digging deep into there, I do have a lot of paint on the edge of my brush, so I can just wipe that and then sweep, 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 and all my brushes rolled away from me. Okay, there we go. Now I do have a small pointy brush, I have a medium pointy brush, and then I have my bigger flat brush. And these are my 3 favorite brushes. You do have extra brushes in the kit, so feel free to use whichever one feels most comfortable for you. I will say when we're painting smaller areas, we use smaller brush, bigger areas, we use bigger brush. And I know I'm talking a lot, I tend to do that. I've been an elementary art teacher for 14 years, and I've taught even before then. So I do kind of talk a lot, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna dig into my yellow. You know, I might want some yellow in there, and I might even want to use a little bit of red or turn it into pink later, or even make orange. So I'll throw some red on my plate as well. Okay, one more brush cleaning. Okay. Rub, 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 rub. Trying to rub the side of that brush, it doesn't want to come off. Wipe, 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 and dry, dry, dry. If your napkins get too yucky, you can always flip your napkin over, and in addition to that, you have extra napkins, so you can always use extra napkins. Okay. So like I said earlier, we're going to start with our background first. I think I'm going to go for some blues and turquoises in my background. So I am going to put some white over here by my blue and grab a little bit of blue and mix that in. I always start with white first when I'm trying to lighten a color, and then I put my color in a little bit at a time, maybe a chocolate chip amount. There we go. And we will work on getting this filled in. Now, I do like to kind of outline a space first and then fill in, and outline and then fill in. And if we get a little bit of paint where it doesn't belong, like I was saying earlier, trust my process, it's okay. Okay, so we just swirl, swirl, swirl. And if you're trying to squeeze in some tight areas, you could always switch to a smaller brush and paint the smaller areas and then go back to this bigger brush. Now, I know that I am painting right over my coral and even some of my other underwater stuff, but that is okay. And I'm going to show you why here in a minute. Now, if you can purposefully not paint on something, great. But if you just really can't avoid it, instead of spending hours trying to paint around all of that seaweed and coral and stuff, you can just paint over it and we'll bring it back later. Now, you may be thinking, well, what is she going to do on the little one? So I'm working on the mommy one right now, right? And the little ones are thinking, well, why isn't she painting mine? I plan on going back and forth between the both of them. So I'll work a little on this one and then I'll work a little on that one. The nice thing is really it's the same image in reverse, right? So what you see me doing on one, you can totally do on the other one. So you saw me outline and then fill in over here, so I can outline and fill in over here. Just like this. There we go. We'll get that all filled in slowly but surely. There we go. And as I fill in, this might be a good time to talk about some happy memories from this year. Like all of my family is healthy and happy. My son has one semester left until he graduates from college. And yes, I do have a college-age son. He's technically my stepson, but I have raised him since he was 4. And definitely just think of him as mine. And my daughter is 13, and those of you with teenagers understand why my eyes get so big when I say that, and that is because raising a teenager has a lot of ups and downs. So we've made it through, a good 6 months of her being a teenager, so I'm pretty sure we can continue functioning as a family. Okay, so we've got our blues kind of coming in. And anytime you're painting, if you see any of these little teeny tiny white spots that are kind of peeking through, that is your canvas like screaming at you, add more paint, okay? And notice that I am doing this very bottom edge of the canvas as well, because I do like to fill in my edges. Now, if you put your paint on so thick that you can't see the Sharpie lines anymore, once we get to all of these fun details, you'll have 2 choices. You can either A, just sort of freehand them, because there's really not a wrong way to do them. If you think about them, they're just a bunch of wavy lines. Or B, you could turn a flashlight on, or the flashlight that's on your phone. You could always turn that on and shine it behind the canvas, and it will shine through, and you'll be able to see the Sharpie lines again, which is pretty cool. Now, I made an oopsie and definitely did not make enough blue paint when I was making my own color here, and so because of that, I'm having to kind of make more as I go. So the way to solve that problem is it's okay. It's almost better just to make a little bit too much than not enough, right? It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Now, when we're kind of swirling our brush and sort of sweeping this paint around on our canvas, it is okay to move your hand down a little bit on the handle of the brush, so that way you can have a little bit more range. So I'm like swirling with my whole hand and not just my fingers. So you might think about that. All right. There we go. And I do see one more spot I almost forgot. Right in here, guys, right? So if you are wanting to hang these canvases together, one thing to think about is try to match at least this blue color. So you guys could try to kind of help each other make or even share the same pile of blue. Just make sure that you make enough of it for 2 canvases instead of just 1. I think I'm so used to just painting 1 at a time, that's why I sort of ran out of my blue paint. Okay. To move this back a little or we're going to have a major accident. There we go. There we go. And I am just kind of swirling, outline and swirl, right? Don't forget your edges on the sides as well. Now notice I didn't go down here. That's because that's the mermaid body, right? But I am gonna do this whole edge over here because that is all water. And then that way I can continue on in to this space. All right. So this is kind of, I always tell my people taking class, doing the background is sometimes the most boring, right? Because it's just all one color and you're having to go slow and be careful and not paint certain things. But another thing to think about though is we still want it to be fun. So just think of it as a little bit of a challenge, right? Okay, now let's say you're kind of like, that's a lot of blue. Or let's say you're kind of looking at it and you're thinking, well, I see some spots that need to be touched up. So you could either and I am thinking I did not do these edges. So either you can put a second coat on of the same color, or B, you could even swirl in an additional color just for fun, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this blue in my brush, and this second layer of blue I'm swirling on seems to be a little bit lighter, but that's okay. Totally cool. We do not stress about things at Artsy Rose because there is enough going on in the world to stress about that we don't want to stress about something that is supposed to be fun. Okay, so I love turquoise. So I'm going to grab some white, and I left all the blue in my brush. And actually I should probably grab more white because I'm doing 2 canvases, right? And then a little bit of turquoise until you like your value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. And maybe part of my picture gets just a little bit. Can you see? The light's so bright it's hard to even see. But over here I'm adding just a little bit of turquoise in there. I'm just sort of swirling it in. Now it will not blend if your paint has dried on you. So you may have to kind of alternate and go between the light blue and the light turquoise, and the light blue and the light turquoise if you are wanting it to blend. Or you could just swirl the turquoise in to be like a second color that's just sort of swirled in there. I know that when we went on vacation to Florida a couple summers ago, oh my gosh, it was beautiful. The ocean was just the most gorgeous turquoise color ever. So that could always be an option. And I could even, with just some straight turquoise, just swirl just a little bit of that straight turquoise in on one side. So it's almost like we have a little bit of an ombre effect. Now, if you liked your water the way it was before I started doing all of this, then don't do anything to it. This is your painting. And just because I'm doing something some type of way doesn't mean that that's how you have to do it. So see the difference between the two? So this is just the one layer of blue, and this is the one layer of blue with a little bit of light blue swirled in, light turquoise swirled in, and then the regular turquoise kind of layered up there at the top. So that's the difference between the two. Totally up to you which option you want to go for, right? Because this is your painting and it's getting hung up in your home. And while we're talking about hanging art, my neighbor once told me, and I thought, you know what, that is so wise, that we will never be this close to our paintings again. So what we see right in front of our face is not how art is meant to be viewed. It's meant to be viewed from a distance, enjoying it from a distance, right? So do not stress about what you're seeing. And if you start to feel a little anxious, just stand up, just take a little lap, take some deep breaths, and walk up to your painting from a distance, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So again, I'm just putting a little bit of turquoise, the light turquoise kind of all over right now, just to sort of match my mama painting that's on my left side. Okay, all right. And then double check that you did all 4 sides. Now I know that we did not do this bottom, so I'm going to add just a little, just a teeny bit down there. Same thing over here. Just a teeny bit right down here. There we go. Now you may be painting flat, which is totally fine. Normally that is how I paint when I am creating like a new canvas design. When I'm brainstorming out new art, I do paint flat at home, so nothing wrong with that. But if you do have an easel, that is great too. Okay. All right, guys, so we have this very fun, just simple, calm, very kind of calming feeling background here, okay? So I am going to clean my big brush because I'm going to put my base color on my unicorn tail with my big brush. But then after it dries a little bit, I'll go back with a smaller brush and add all the fun details. So clean, 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 swish and swirl, wipe on the inside, dry, dry. Remember, if your napkin gets yucky, flip it over or toss it and get a different one. Okay. I think for my mermaid tail, I am going to start with purple and then I may kind of blend into another color. So up to you. And with, like I do most of my colors, I'm going to start out with white. You do not have to do this. And I'm going to blend in the purple. Okay, so I make a much lighter purple. Then I can go back with my original purple and I can kind of add some looks of scales onto my tail. Now, as I paint this, I do not want my tail to be completely smooth. So I'm going to do backward C, backward C, backward C, backward C. And then I'll get some more paint, backward C, backward C, backward C, backward C. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a little bit of visual texture on my canvas. Now I am trying to be careful to make sure that I stay inside the tail, to be very aware of that, right? Okay, now as I start working my way up the tail or down the tail, however you want to think of that, I am going to think about adding another color in. So before I do that, maybe I should jump on over here to my little mini me and get this one done. There we go. So remember, same concept. There we go. Curve, 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 curve. All right. So Artsy Rose has been open for 5 years. We had our 5th birthday in February, and we do all kinds of fun stuff. We have after-school art classes. We love doing birthday parties and private parties. Don't forget your edges while you have this color in your brush. And I think I'm going to have to flip this upside down for a minute, guys. Just having that thought, because how else would I be able to do the underside of the mermaid tail, and I don't want to forget to do it later. So hopefully I don't make your brains hurt too much by flipping this around. Maybe if you guys flip yours around, your brains will hurt with me. Because sometimes it makes my brain hurt to paint upside down. Okay, but we love doing birthday parties and private parties, and we love doing camps during all the school breaks. We love visiting places to teach art classes. So we essentially just love art and sharing it with everybody. All right, so we did our purple. So now I'm going to leave this purple in my brush, and I'm going to grab a little bit of red, kind of move it over here, grab some white, mix, 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 mix. And I may need to get even more white. I told you I use a lot of white. So I might use a clean brush just because that's such a pretty white container there. I hate to stick my big old red brush in there, right? Okay, anytime you're not using a brush, make sure that you put it in water or you clean it, okay? Because you don't want paint to dry up in your paintbrush. So I'm going to leave some pink for the end, but I am going to mix some of this light purple and pink together, so I kind of make, what would that be, like a magenta-ish color? So then, oh yes, so now we can kind of blend to a pretty magenta. There we go. And continue to make those sort of curved brush strokes, because we're trying to imply that it has scales. Now, before I get any further, while I still have this color in my brush, I'm going to jump over to my mini me. Here we go. So I miss the days when my daughter was little and wanted to be by my side all the time. So those of you that still have littles that want to be by your side all the time, enjoy those moments. They go so fast. Okay, it's beautiful. See, it gently fades from purple to pink, and the reason is two reasons. I used some of the pink I made and I mixed it into the purple that I had already used on the tail, so that's reason number one. And reason number two is I brought a little bit of that pinky purple that we just made into the purple that was already on the tail. So that way it kind of blends right here, and it doesn't just go from purple to magenta, right? Okay, and then now while this is still in my brush, I am going to grab some of that pink that we just made. And actually, well, I am thinking I might, so right here on the thicker parts, I can use this big brush that I already have all this paint in, but once I get to the tip, I definitely cannot stick with the same big brush because I will definitely get out of the lines. And I know that that would really, really make some of you sad to get out of the lines. Although, just remember, this is just for fun. There's no grades. This is just for happy memory making. So I'll go about that far, and that's about as far as I can go with this big brush, and so I'll let it hang out in the water. Clean this guy off, even though I just had white. That's all it had. And I'm actually going to add a little bit more white to that pink we made, so we make an even softer pink. But again, whatever color you did, you can totally, I'm going to start at the tip, follow the curve, and kind of flick, 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 flick my brush. There. get some more light pink, start at the tip, flick, start at the tip, flick, there we go. So that's kind of fun. Now, obviously, if you're working with littles, if you're doing this project with littles, just keep it simple and do the tail all one color. This is not supposed to be a project that anybody gets frustrated on. And when you do start to get frustrated, we just take a deep breath and remind ourselves that this is just for fun, okay? And we also remind ourselves that it's just paint. It can dry and we can paint over it, or we can take our napkin, you just take a clean part of it, you wrap your napkin around your finger, you dip it in, well, maybe cleaner water than that, and then you can just rub any oopsies that you might have made, and then you dry it off. So as long as you catch your oopsies quick enough, that's a cool little trick that always just really surprises my little artists that come to see me. Okay, start at the tip, follow the curve, tip, follow the curve, tip, and then just kind of flick, 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 right? Flick, 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 okay? There we go. So I personally love making colors and blending and flicking my brush and all of that, but like I said, you can always keep it simple and just keep it one color. All right, beautiful. Okay, and like I said, we're gonna go back to the tail here in a little bit and add some fun details. But for now, I think our tail looks fabulous. And if you got a little bit out of the lines, we don't stress about that around here because your kit came with a Sharpie, correct? So at the end, oh, you know what? That could even be fun to have your painting that way. I'm just looking at it, and that could even be a really fun way to have our paintings. I like it. Okay. But that Sharpie at the very end, after your paint is 100% dry, you can go back with your Sharpie and retrace every Sharpie line. You can even add additional details with that Sharpie, and it does wonders. I do that to almost all of my paintings, and it just brings it together. Okay, let's move on to some seaweed color. So I do not have green, okay? I have turquoise, but I don't have green. So I'm going to take some yellow, kind of move it over. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, and I'm talking like chocolate chip amount of blue, and mix that into my chunk of yellow that I put over there. Now the more blue I put into the yellow, the darker green I will make. I'm going to also grab a chunk of white and stick that in there. Now, the more yellow that's in there, then obviously the more limey green I will have. So it's up to you. Do you want a limey green or do you want a dark green? Or maybe you want both. Maybe you want to do a little bit with kind of a lighter green like this. And then you could do some of it with a little bit darker green. Now, the more white you add to your green, it's going to do two things. Thing number one is obviously it will lighten it, but thing number two, it will make it not so see-through. So sometimes when I'm working on a surface like this, and I know that kind of got into a space I didn't mean to with my paint, then knowing that if I put extra white in my color, it'll sort of hide all those oopsies, right? Now, these could also be some little green squiggles, or not. It can be whatever color you want. Again, there is no wrong answer when it comes to art. It's kind of opposite of math, right? There's definitely wrong answers in math. So, here we go. And I am hoping that you guys are just really enjoying painting. It is one of my most favorite things to do. It didn't used to be, but the more I practiced at it and the better I got, the more fun it became. And it's actually really therapeutic now. Anytime I'm feeling kind of down or unsure about things, and I just go get my paintbrushes out, my canvases, and just go to town. Okay, I also know that this is going to be green. Doesn't have to be though. It could be like some cool, I don't know, coral or some imaginary made up something, whatever you want. Okay. Almost didn't make enough of that. Seems to be the story of the day today, so I hope you are learning a lesson to make sure you make enough of a color. And I do have that down there on the bottom edge. Now, if your water gets really yucky, like mine's kind of getting close, you can always go pour your water out and get fresh water in there. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Sometimes it kind of makes people feel better about painting, because if your water gets too nasty, it will affect your paint colors. Okay, and part of this green, well, I almost ran out of green, so I'm actually going to add some more yellow first, a little bit more blue. Okay, a little bit more white. Okay, awesome. Now, I'm going to divide this pile kind of in half. And when you're mixing colors, try to keep your pile in one pile. That makes sense, instead of getting it all over the plate. Just because it's going to dry a lot quicker the thinner your paint piles are. But if you have nice thick piles, then it will not dry out as fast for you on your plate. So notice that I made a second pile of green that is a lot darker green. Okay, so this way I can go back in on parts of this and just add little pops. And if you need to switch to a smaller brush to do this, if you feel better about that, then by all means switch brushes, because you want to use the brush that you feel most comfortable using. I am doing a super gentle touch. I am not completely filling in my canvas. Well, I'm not completely filling in all of the green. I'm leaving some of it the lighter green. And I'm going to wipe some of this off. Instead of washing it, I just wipe some of it off. Now, in my lighter pile, I'm going to make it even lighter. And then add little pops of that in there. So see, that's kind of fun, right? Now again, this is all just, I'm just trying to teach you a little something extra. You don't have to do this many steps. You keep it on level with where you are or your kiddos are, okay? There we go. Awesome. There. And maybe a little couple of pops up here. And again, it's not everywhere. It's just in a few spots. There. If you need to freeze frame me right there, go right ahead. And then of course you can hit play when you're ready. Okay. So now you may want to think about switching to, y'all let me forget some seaweed on this one over here. Oh my. Okay, let me just pop that in there real quick. I am so sorry. There. Yay. Okay, now you may want to switch to a smaller brush depending on how heavy your hand is. If you have a heavy hand, you want to use a smaller brush. If you can have a very soft, gentle touch, then you'll be okay with your medium pointy brush. So it's up to you. Make sure your brush is really clean and really dry. And I want to take some yellow and some red, and I know that when I mix yellow and red, I'm gonna get an orange color, right? Always just start out with a little bit of your darker color, and then I'm gonna put some white in there because I don't want it to be see-through, okay? Might even add just a little bit more red. Trying to go kind of for a corally color, like a pinky orangey color, right? And we're gonna find out if I added enough white or not. Now, if you want it to pop even more, then we add more white to our color we just made. So if it doesn't pop against the blue background enough, then you just add some more white, okay? And these are super soft, gentle brush strokes with your baby brush or your medium brush, and there's no rush, okay? I might even want to add, don't know if this is such a thing, but I'm adding a few little orange dots kind of by some of the plants, just like that, just to add a little funness in there. Okay. So now, same thing over here. And if you change the shape of your coral a little bit, that's okay. This is your painting. And say you can't even see yours anymore, maybe you got your blue paint too thick. Remember, you can shine a light from behind your canvas, or another option is just don't paint it. Nobody has to know that there was coral there, right? It's all up to you. So I am just very gently just dab, 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 dab. Very gently. Okay, you don't have to do that, but I just want it to have an extra little pop of something. Now, I'm going to add a little bit more red to this color. Not the whole pile. Notice I just did it in the side of the pile. So that way I don't lose all of that color. And I can kind of wiggle a little bit of that darker color in there. It's really not even that noticeable. I guess I could have added more red to make it more noticeable. Okay, and I think I'm going to add even more red to my pile so I can paint my starfish. Or is it a sea star? And I'm not even sure. Is that the same thing or is that different? I don't know. You guys feel free to comment below and educate me. Okay. As you guys paint this, you could totally name your mermaids. You could totally come up with a story for your mermaids. Where are they headed? Are they related? Is this mom and daughter mermaid? You know what I'm saying? There. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of that really light orange that I made the first time when I did all those little dots. I'm just going to put a couple little dots on its back. because they sometimes have those little raised spines on their back. Okay, so clean, clean, clean. Now, with my baby brush that keeps rolling away from me, I am going to use, I'm going to try this normal purple and we're going to see. We may have to add a little bit of black to it, but we'll see. And I am going to add, and you could, if you wanted to, do more than one color in this spot. So curve, flip, curve, flip, curve, flip. So I am just adding in a little bit of texture, a little bit of visual texture. So as soft as I can, I'm holding my brush a little further back than what I showed you earlier, and that is so I can use my whole arm to sort of curve and flip. And guess what? If you get your paint on there and you're like, oh, what did I just do? Remember, you take a clean part of your napkin, wrap it around your finger, dip it in clean water, rub, 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 rub. It'll come right off. Your tail is probably already dry, so you can rub wet acrylic paint off of dry acrylic paint. It's pretty cool. Now, if you rub too hard, you might rub some of that original color off, but just be careful, okay? Now, here's what I'm going to do. And if you would feel more successful about using a pencil first to kind of sketch this on there and then trace it with your paintbrush, great. If you don't even want to think about painting detail lines with your paintbrush, at my studio we do this all the time. We get that Sharpie out, remember that Sharpie you have, and we just use our Sharpie to do our detail lines, and nobody can tell the difference from a distance, okay? But what I'm going to do is I am going to make a backward C, backward C, backward C, just like that. If it's easier to turn your canvas sideways, can you see that? Because sometimes it's easier to make this motion instead of that motion. You could always turn it sideways like this and make like a frowny face. Now, I don't want to start exactly where I was. I actually want to go from hump to hump this time. So hump to hump to hump. It's like I'm skipping rocks or jumping on the stones. Just like that. Same thing, hump to hump to hump to hump to hump to hump. Okay, so you guys, like I said, if you would feel better about using a pencil first, go for it. And I would suggest not starting them too small. I have 6 original humps on mine. Because as you go down the tail or up the tail, however you want to think about it, I would suggest making your humps a little smaller as you go. And the reason being, we want it to look realistic. They're mermaids, but anyway, and so this gets a lot skinnier right here than it is up here. So obviously the scales would get smaller, right? Okay, so you might think about that as you move down your canvas. You could also think, do you want to make all the scales the same color, or do you want to kind of blend into another color like we did here? So for example, do I want to start putting some red into my purple? Okay, so I could grab some red, kind of blend it into my purple just a little bit. Let's see if it's even noticeable. Yeah, it's kind of noticeable. Like that. See, it's a little different. And we're just going to keep doing this And you could keep adding a little bit more red as you go. You might even have to think about angling these just a little bit as well. Add a little bit more red. And when I say a little bit, all I did was grab like a mini chocolate chip amount and I put it in the side of my purple. I did not just put it in my whole pile of purple. This is actually a little bit therapeutic, just making the same line over and over again. But again, if you are like, holy Hannah, this is frustrating or scary, you can always just use a Sharpie, right? Okay. Add a little bit more red. And now I'm going to grab me just a little bit of white. Pop that in there just to soften it some, because remember my colors got softer as they went. Try to keep the same pressure. I kind of got a little heavy-handed on one of those. If your arm gets tired, give it a break. Believe it or not, I have friends at my studio tell me all the time, oh my gosh, my arm is so tired. You don't think about getting a tired arm painting, but it happens. Add a little bit more white. There we go. Might have been too much white, huh? Put a little bit more of that purpley red back in there. There we go. And so remember, we are in no rush. Just take your time. You will be so happy if you just take your time on it, right? OMG, that is so cute. Super duper cute. Now, while I have this color in my brush, I'm gonna flick some of that into the tail, just like that. Now, remember, we do not get frustrated. If you get frustrated, you take a walk and you come back. Okay, so same thing over here. Maybe I'll switch these so this one's a little bit closer. Okay, slide that down a minute. There we go. So, frowny face, frowny face, frowny face, frowny face, frowny face. And there probably will not be nearly as many scales on our mini me because it's smaller, right? It's not adult size yet. One day we all grow up, at least physically, and still have fun like kids though. So I love that you guys are still watching and staying tuned. There's a couple more things that I want to add to our painting, just a few more fun little details, and then we'll be all finished. And I really, really hope that you guys will take pictures and post them or tag Artsy Rose, because I want to see your artwork. Like I said, this is the first time this painting has debuted. Nobody has painted it at my studio yet. I know I am gonna have some jealous little girls there. right, and remember, as we go up, our little scales get more reddish and they get a little smaller. All right, and they need to get a little lighter too, right? We got to add some white to our pile so that they get lighter. All right. All right, all right. And a little bit more white. I am going through the white paint on this painting, aren't I? Okay. Oh, that might have been too much white. You can't even see. Grab a little bit more red. Mix that back in so we can see. OMG, girls. This is so fabulous. Okay. And remember, we added a few little flicks in our tail. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush. The little baby brush does not hold very much paint at once, so that's why you are constantly having to dunk in your paint pile. Okay, and there we go. Oh my gosh, so cute. Okay, I feel like we should take a little bit of this purple, the original purple, and just sort of clean up. Go slow and steady. Doesn't even have to be a totally smooth, perfect line. Slow and steady, and just sort of outline the edge of our mermaid. Same thing on mama's tail. Outline. And make sure you're breathing. I learned that when I got to paint with this really awesome muralist at my school, because I do teach art full time in a public school too. Anyway, he said, "Kimberly, breathe, you're not breathing." I never realized that I wasn't breathing when I was painting. Until he pointed it out to me, and I would always get so winded when I painted, and I just had no clue why I was out of breath, and that is why. Silly little confession that, you know, when you paint details, sometimes you tend to hold your breath, so make sure you breathe every now and then, right? Okay, I'm going to clean this brush right out. And I feel like we need a little something going on up here. So what I'm going to do is I've got some straight turquoise still, and I am going to add, well, that's not even that noticeable, is it? You know what? I'm going to teach y'all a cool trick. You can grab some turquoise. I'm just grabbing a little bit, not much, maybe a chocolate chunk amount, and then I'm going to grab a double ant size amount of red. You always just start out with a little bit, and I know you're thinking red. Well, red and green, and turquoise is kind of light green, are complementary colors. Grab a little bit more, and you can use complementary colors to darken each other. So I can use red to darken green or turquoise, and I can use turquoise to darken red, which is kind of cool. So I am just going to kind of add just a little pop of dark. I just feel like we needed some contrast. And you could do it everywhere, like that, or just in a few spots. Totally up to you. There we go. All right. Yeah, that's what it needed up here. Needed some contrast. There we go. Nice. And then the last, oh, I guess I need to put some down in here too, don't I? Boop. 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 Okay, so the last little bit that I want to add that I think would just be fun, I'm going to clean out my bigger brush because it has a bigger handle, and you don't have to do this, but, and I'm going to switch back to the way I was. There we go. There we go. I'm going to dip the handle into my white paint, and I am going to do a few little bubbles. Boop, 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 boop. So they go straight down, straight up. Do not lift your brush too fast, or you'll wind up kind of dripping that paint. And it'll make like a little drippy line on your canvas. Okay, so there's those. We got a few little bubbles, and then I'm going to use my baby brush, and I'm going to get into the white paint with that, and I'm going to do some little swirls kind of in here. So it's almost like, so I'm just gently making like circles that are totally not perfect around our little tail. Let me do one more little bit over here so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, maybe we need to make these kind of go up a little. Okay, and the reason I did that is so that it kind of looks like the tail is like swishing in the water, right? Maybe? And if you liked your painting the way it was, then definitely don't even worry about this part. This is just a little extra bonus fun add-on idea. Not anything that you have to do. There we go. And all of these little circles can kind of overlap each other. They don't have to. Awesome. Oh my goodness, so cute. So cute. I am super excited about this one. And I just absolutely love that I got to share this day and this memory with you, and I appreciate your support in Artsy Rose and hanging out to the end of this video. I know I talked a lot and I know it was kind of long, but totally worth it, right? Because now you have a beautiful masterpiece that you can hang on your wall. I am so proud of you. So I hope that you guys enjoyed yourself, and please share pictures. I want to see. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I cannot wait to do some more art with you.